hard for the
practicing
eyes.
it, doing it, and doing it, and doing it, and doing it, over and over and over until I got it. And that's kind of how I approach the sessions.
But not if they're always writing the problems on the board and they're always doing it at the board. There are different ways to do that. They don't have boards at home. So another way,
practice.
it is practice, but there's other ways of giving them practice.
Yeah, on paper in front of them.
Exactly, but having them work in groups.
But I didn't become a good student. by
Okay,
working
but
in groups.
but you're
And I thought
teaching
that's what SI is me teaching them how to become a better student.
teaching them to become a better student.
Yeah, I didn't become a better student necessarily when I'm at home by myself. I don't have my friends there or my peers or my study groups. I'm by myself, so I have to.
Okay, but they're not at home by themselves. They're in a group. So how can you help a group become better? That's what you're trying to teach them, to be better students, to be able to work better with others, you know, how to develop groups to work together. Steve, you know that group participation works really well from all the physics and stuff you've done. You might be the Lone Ranger, but you're still a good student and you still have seen other people
Yeah, I was like,
have
I was
to do
typing
that.
them out.
But like whenever I work with other students, like as a group, like 'cause I've always done that. That's something we've done many times. We're not necessarily doing activities. The only thing really we're doing is we get together, we bring our textbooks. Whatever we didn't get, we might read it again,
Okay,
go over it.
but you brought your textbooks, you're using your textbooks.
Yes.
So, how do
And I
we
have
help
them do that.
students learn how to do that?
Is it just by putting it in their head that they need to get used to bringing it? So is that? I mean, is that?
So you
is
write a
that
problem
good
down and tell them
end
to go
result?
find this in the chapter. So they
Okay.
get used to
Yeah,
using
yeah,
their
yeah,
book.
I get that. But is that a good end result to get to?
It's one of the
is-
results, it's not the only one.
Okay.
You want them to use their notes. You want to help them write better notes. So while you're sitting in class, the teacher says something, hey, let's go pull this problem from, you know, the teacher doing it. I saw some of your faces and you guys were really lost. And let's go look at their notes and see what they have down. Maybe some people didn't even write it because they just didn't understand, or some people, they have to watch and they don't get a chance to write it down. So now you're using one student to help another student get a problem down that they missed in class. Don't get frustrated.
No, I'm not frustrated.
There's
I'll
just
be
different
honest,
techniques.
I love my sessions. I love the way I do it. I have a feeling though that somebody's gonna come and see my session. They're gonna say, "Ivan, we don't like the way you're doing it." Because I don't.
They're
think-
not
I
going to tell you they
think-
don't like the way you're doing
But-
it.
but-
They're going to offer you suggestions on how you could improve it.
Okay.
Nobody's going to tell you
But
you're doing a bad
eventually
job,
down the
Ivan.
line, I'm going to be told you've been told to change it up, even though I like the way I do it, and then that I don't know why I keep getting that feeling. I keep,
But you should change it up.
I'm work up on the board. Let's work on the board. Let's try to solve.
But
this.
we
Try to
should be
figure it out.
changing it up. That's a definite. And you've got to break your comfort zone of not wanting
But
to
it's
try to
not
change
my
it up.
comfort zone, though.
They don't run your sessions, honey. You do.
One way what I do is because last semester I like tidbits. Well, now I tell okay, put what you need, the formulas, what you need to know to tackle this problem. That changes it up while you're still
These are good. What I'm saying is some just
That's what I do with one of mine. I kind of structure like, how would you approach this problem? We'll go step by step. But it gives them a list to kind of go by.
and that's how you kind of change it up while the
Mine's
premise
usually
is still the same.
terminology, and I'll explain how we're going to go over terminology.
And then have them go, use know that list, go up to the board and try to solve it.
And that way they have like you can call it like the toolkit as they call it here.
Yeah.
Just little things that might be different.
Everyone up here? Now get your groups together. Basically, I want you each group to come up and give us a brief synopsis. Use this thing right here so we can see what you're talking about.
They're the hardest ones to get there.
Jim,
This one is pretty well done. This would be like what we graded as an A paper. His objective was pretty clear. Even told us like what rule he was going to emphasize and things like that. He went over the sections that he was going to cover and what the sections were actually about. And then the process was very detailed. It's about working in small groups and everything like that. Then the comments at the bottom were kind of brief, but then on his plan in the back, we noticed he had additional comments on his plan about how he went about it, things like that. So that was really well done. We weren't sure if he put the comments in after he wrote up his plan, or if this whole thing was put together after he actually gave the session. So that was a little confusing, but we thought it was pretty well done. We can kind of see how the session went. Looks like it was pretty productive from his notes, and so we thought that was pretty well done. Yeah, you can do
Okay, so our second one. Let me see.
Yeah, we can see.
It's really brief. Right here in the content to cover, like here it just says basic reactions. It doesn't really go into depth of like what it is. Like I don't know what chemistry 213. So like me reading this, I have an idea of these, but that one I just don't know. And then over here, this one has somewhat of a process, but these two, they don't really go into much detail of what their plan is going into the SI session.
This one says like whiteboard.
This one says whiteboard activity, but it doesn't really say what they're going to do with the whiteboard. If they're going to group them, put up problems, or how they're going to approach it. And then, oh yeah, this one, it didn't really talk about how the students felt after, or the strategy they used, like what worked, what didn't work, what the students really liked or didn't like. It's kind of just an overview that some students came from a different section of the camp. We didn't really grade this because at the top it says Avalar source, so.
There was no plan attached, like I'm gonna warm up and
Yeah.
do this.
So I guess this is just a worksheet that Avalar gave.
Okay, good. Next, who wanted to be next?
Girls, leave them there, please. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. You can do 2 out of the 3, or 1 out of the 3, yeah.
Which two do you want to use?
Oh, just choose one. Choose
1 or 2, it doesn't.
two. This one's colorful.
Okay, for this one, we like the goal right here. It's pretty much just saying like what they're doing and what their goal is, and it's pretty clear. For these right here, we liked what they did, but the only thing is that they didn't really put a time frame. And usually for me, it really helps when I put a time frame. Like intro is like 10 minutes. The middle part I should take a couple hours or something like that. These right here, the process used, it says what the I think it's pretty much what our little card says, but to say an instructor that's reading this and trying to find out what it is, they may not understand. So I think like elaborating on the process used would probably be a good idea. And what did we say about that? Yeah, for the comments that they had, I think like additionally on what they already said, maybe like what could they do in the next session, or kind of thinking ahead a little bit, reflecting a little bit on their thing to get a better results. I think that would probably be a good idea. Otherwise, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good paper, and one that we really liked. Which one was it?
What was the one you really liked?
Well, here's one that we. Oh, is this one? This one we didn't really have a lot of anything to like correct or anything, because in the objective they stated like what they really needed, like all the topics that they're going to be covering and what the students needed. This right here, I guess they kind of just meant like for the whole thing, but one thing we could probably suggest is maybe add an intro and an outro, but they did kind of say like what they're going to do here. So I think that was pretty okay. The only thing is maybe have like a better, like not better, but like a closing thing. So like reviewing the material, just like really briefly, giving them a little quiz or something, that would probably be a good idea. Or making them predict what's going to be on the next session or the next class activity. This is pretty much clear and concise. So it's really short. It's gets to the point. Again, the only other thing is maybe get some feedback, like what did the students really felt good on, what did they really struggled on, something for the professors to read and probably improve upon or use more often of, or something like that. That's kind of pretty much it.
All right. Next. Yeah, no. We had two that we kind of saw some of the same mistakes in two of them. It just seemed like they weren't very concise. They weren't very concise about like what content they were covering and which activities they were going to use and how they were going to get the content across to the students. We also kind of thought the same thing about this one too. He gave out what he did, but I know if these are meant to be like for the future SI students, you kind of do want to relate them to the material that we hand out, like the cards and stuff, so that way they can, you know, put it in their book, okay, like use this activity and for later. Some of these weren't fully, like students participated, could use a little bit more description. Yeah, we really liked this one. It was really thorough, had good details, it had good insight about how the session went. You know, definitely like what you guys were talking about, you know, seeing stuff made you want to raise your own bar. I thought that about this paper. I thought it was, you know, very, very well, you know, elaborated on. Everything was really nice about it, so it means there wasn't anything left undone.
Maybe
Do you guys want to
too much
move in?
whiteout.
It's right here at the main.
I think for this one, they had, even though it looks like this, they had a really good plan. That's the way I seen it. So, I mean, this.
Incorporate that into the first page, maybe.
Yeah, so that was pretty nice. And then, yeah, and then at first I was wondering what this was for, but this is part of the plan also. This is part of the worksheet. So this is a calendar to put the important dates on. And then, yeah, you know,
Yeah, you don't want to think of
Yeah, we were thinking there was a mix-up on like the idea of what you're supposed to do on the plan and on the
yeah, and on the
on here, because they seem to have a lot of information on the plan and not on or vice versa. You know what I mean? Thank you.
Good job.
Next.
We'll go. I'm going to cover up the class and the professors, that way we don't. Okay.
Backwards.
All right. So there isn't much on where here. We could, you know, so we could definitely improve by putting some stuff there. Review from the first test. Okay, that's good. Covered and missed answers. So the process that they use for this is clear. Some of the stuff here, though, it becomes a little more clear because even though they're talking about what they're going to do for each one, the process is, you know, maybe a little bit more clear on how the process was going to be done is what we thought could work better. As far as some of the comments here, we felt that this probably could have gone up here, and this sentence should also understand what the instructor's method is, could have also gone up here.
The arrows are pointing.
Right.
Were those their arrows or your
No,
arrows?
those are our arrows.
Oh, those are your- oh,
Yeah, those are our arrows. Yeah. So, yeah, we did that. I put the question mark, I crossed that, or, yeah. So, this could be a little clearer, but I think this was from the first week, so maybe, you know, I'm guessing the date that was on here is from the first week, so we're guessing maybe that this got better.
Fifth week.
We crossed out 2.4 multiplying with.
Oh, that was already like that.
Oh, was it?
That part was like that.
Yeah, we said that.
Yeah, and this was also
Yeah,
crossed
I
out.
see that.
So, all right.
And that's
In
the
that case
fifth
then-
week.
In that case then, we thought this one was quite good. Very clear, this session will revisit this stuff, the techniques here. Clearly, owns up to what they will be doing, you know. Icebreaker, I wrote on here, okay, if it's once. I realized though that this probably was only done once, the icebreaker. I figure after they've already been to a few sessions, you don't need to do that anymore. So, for this particular one, good. Really good activity, good breakdown, several activities, the mapping, the 3-2-1. I personally would have liked a little bit more detail here, but it's still team versus team. You know, it's easy enough to understand. This is really good though because they have quite a bit to say here. During the sessions, I played classical music. You know, I think a lot of teachers do that. And then as you see, there's a lot more that they have to say. So very opinionated. I'm not going to read all of it. An outline of the actual session, which is cool. I've been hearing about this. I personally have never done an outline for my sessions, but I kind of have an idea of what they're supposed to be. So if I ever decide to do one, or if I'm told I have to do one, I'm going to copy this. This is good though. I like this.
Yeah, that was mandatory.
And then if this is the only worksheet, I thought maybe I personally like to do a little bit more just to give them variety, but.
That's not the worksheet, that's part of the plan.
Oh, okay, well, no, there it is.
Now we know.
You're a little defensive.
So,
They can't help it, it's all
good.
This isn't meant to pick on anybody, this is to learn so we can do better. This isn't to pick
I wonder
on
who's the-
anybody, so
the
please
SI for
don't feel
this,
picked
for
on,
that.
guys.
I was just clarifying,
Clarify with your partner, huh?
maybe for that person out there. Poor guy.
Girl, good big girl.
Oh, yeah, poor girl.
It's like kind of embarrassing to me.
You said everything!
Well, because Mylan's so much better now. I'm like, oh, I totally get the hang of it. And before, I was just like, oh, I don't know.
Seems like a double. Yeah.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
Alright, so the purple is what I wrote, and basically, they were really vague on the whole thing. As you can see, there's not much of their writing. I started with the date. You only have one session. I include the whole week. I don't know. Does anybody just put one day?
Sometimes
I put both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put both days unless there's only one session.
I put the whole week, just so you know, like, what the plan is covering. Anyways, so, objective and info, they put like a bunch of information, but they didn't say what they're gonna do with it, or like, what they need to accomplish about it. So that's really vague, it's just a list of things. Also, the content to cover is also really vague, like they say warm-up, and then balancing equations. There's just not much here. And then like, it has right here chapter 1, 2, and 3, but I have no idea what's in that chapter. So I don't think I'd be able to teach this subject with this paper. And informal quiz, it's really vague. That's pretty much it. And then, did they break the cycle? Quote, I have no idea. And that's pretty much it.
There's not much.
Yeah.
I felt the same way with this one. I'm not sure like where he separated or whoever separated, wherever it's supposed to be separated for as far as the dates. And I was just a little bit like confused, and I was trying to read through it, but I just felt like it was really vague. I think it needs to have more details and maybe list like what kind of like activity plans you're doing. I understand like right here it put like notes, but is it like sharing like information, like note review, sharing each other's information? But I was just, the only thing I liked was about their worksheet. I thought it was very well done, very prepared. As far as me being able to teach it, I think I could go off of the worksheet, but I wouldn't know like what activities he was aiming for as far as like the index cards.
And these were completely random. I mean, we just grabbed a bunch of different weeks, you know, tried to get a good assessment of different weeks. And what I realized was there was a lot of confusion on the objective, content to cover, and process, because a lot of times I would see a list under the objective and the exact same thing under the content. And like I was saying in the last one, and it happens a lot when I would see something like this, objective, and just a list of things, like, is that an objective? It's not as clear as it could be. What is an objective? Here's one that I thought was really, really good. Objective, to be able to demonstrate the understanding of unit conversion. Very clear, complete sentence, very precise. I know exactly what they're talking about. Now, we're going to going back to Ivan's comment a couple weeks ago, quality over quantity. Now, I really feel that it's important to overplan. As you all know, I'm assuming it's all happened to you once that you've underplanned and you've been in that predicament where you never want to be in that predicament again, where you underplan. Overplanning is great and listing something, but content to cover one thing and really dive into it. Instead of going a mile wide and an inch deep, going a mile deep and an inch wide. That's what we'd want. Not trying to cover every single thing that the professor did, but just key components of the lecture. And you may be able to plan A, B, C, D, and E, happen to plan A, B, C, D, and E. What's that?
For my objective session, usually I fill that area out with my professor when I meet with him, because it'll be like we're moving into a new section. I'm like, what do they need to know? What are they going to be the hard things that they're going to have trouble with? So my objectives are usually kind of like, we're going to hit these hard areas and make sure they understand them. Would that work too?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
I mean, and this should be
and then
done
I work
when?
my.
Yeah, it's pre, right? Now, I don't know if anyone picked up on this, but a lot of these, the terminology wasn't post, it was during. I did this, or it was past tense. A lot of the notes in here, a lot of, and the ones I would read, they're past tense, as if they did it prior, or no, I'm sorry, after, they filled this out after the session. And that's not our goal. Our goal is to do this prior to the session, so watch out for that. But I thought this was a really good example. It's very, very, everyone can understand this. One or two things in here, and it goes really dives into exactly what the process is used and why. Divide students in a group, each, I can't even read that. Each should take turn to do the problems which is assigned on the board, correct answer with them. Very, very detailed in the process is used.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And after session, thoughts and things like that. So I thought this was a really, really good example of kind of what we're looking for. Not to overplan and say we have to. I know. If you do it with your professor, that's awesome. To try to hit every single thing, but you could probably do all these up there and then pick the hardest and toughest concepts or what you feel would be the most important. Tracy, you want to add?
Objective is what you're supposed to, how you feel you're going to accomplish something. So if I'm going to do factoring, my objective would be to be able to present the material in such a way that the students are able to walk away with techniques on factoring, recognizing pattern techniques. That would be my objective. And then underneath my content to cover, I would be putting down difference of squares, general trinomials, and I'd be putting over here on the other side how I plan to cover that material. Okay. So your objective is not just, I'm gonna cover cells, DNA, blah, blah, blah. Your objective is, what do you want to happen when they leave the session? What do you want them to overcome? What do you want them to walk away doing, feeling, knowing?
So it would be better your objective is to help them be prepared for the test by making sure they understand such and such. And then in your content to cover, you're like, we're going to go over terminology for one, then we're going to go over old tests, and then the process on the other.
Terminology. Don't just put the word terminology, because every week you guys do terminology is changing. So
What if we have it on our plan on the next sheet? Like, this is all the terms we're going to cover. Okay.
Good,
Awesome.
good.
Be more detailed on the front line. Yes. It's kind of like an outcome, certain learning
Right.
outcomes. You know, after the student takes my session, they will be able to do this, this, and this. This is what we want to do. This is the objective. Yeah, Francine.
So when we're writing these papers, it's supposed to be for the professors to also, I mean, not just for the professor, but anyone in general should be able to read, because then there are some topics that we put that is chemistry related, and then like we don't.
No, no.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good with that. No, it's not everyone will have to understand the chemistry, because there's no way in the world. I never took chemistry. Sounds nice.
That's like Francine, they shouldn't,
All those big
I'm out.
words.
I don't necessarily know that I would know all the terminology, but can I pick up that sheet and walk in there and know that for the first 15 minutes, we're gonna do an icebreaker by way of blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
The next 10 minutes, I'm gonna put some terms on the board and we're gonna do concept mapping. What were those terms?
Okay.
So if I had to go in and fill in for 5 minutes for you, I could. That type of thought process behind it.
And also for the test review that I was doing, I put like the chapters that I was going to go over, and then there's several
Well,
topics
what were
within
you
each
going
chapter.
over that chapter?
Chapter 1 through this and this.
Okay, the book
but-
changes next semester, and I
So
go look
can I
at
put the-
chapter 1, and chapter 1's not even in the new book.
No, so can I put the title instead of?
I would put titles, that's content coverage.
Well, as in the title of the book, because like within each chapter there's several topics. They're going through chapter 1 through 7, 8, and
Okay,
9,
what
10,
is,
and then
what is chapter 1 title?
chapter 1?
What chapter 1's title?
So I have to put the title for each chapter then.
Yeah, like, we're going through chapters
Okay,
1
okay.
through 3, these titles.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of doing chapters, please put like, I don't know, fractions or whatever, I mean, whatever the specific, that would be better than chapter 1.
Okay, yeah.
You know, that would be more descriptive and better to understand. Someone who wasn't in your class, they could get a grasp of what were you doing and what kind of activities and how you were doing it and all that type of thing.
So moles in your chapter, in your book, this semester might be chapter 1, but next semester, so like you don't do it, and I show the SI plan and say, you know, Francine did really good SI, and she had great turnout, and they look at moles, and then it's chapter 3. They'll be able to compare the content, not that they're gonna get your plans to be able to use, but they'll have an idea how to format it. They have to create their own,
Okay, so
always. But it's so that, you know, we can use you as a reference also.
Okay.
And if your professor came and picked it up, granted, they might remember chapter 1, but what part of chapter 1?
Okay.
You know, and that's where you're gonna put in the more detail.
Any other questions? Does this give you guys a better idea of?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna say that, are you guys really specific on the times? Because I do an alternative that works well for me.
You don't have to put for 5 to 10 minutes, just put, you know, format opening, format opener, I'm gonna have this.
Yeah.
For the middle, I'm gonna have this. For the closing, you don't have to put down every single minute. Some of us like to be like that. That's just why I say it first, but
Okay.
so that there's a clear distinction there of what you're doing, just like Tatiana was presenting on the PowerPoints and how we were doing the sessions when we were training you different techniques to use.
I like to use times just because otherwise we get stuck doing one thing. I'm like, okay, we're gonna move on and try something else. So otherwise you don't get through your whole plan maybe.
It's to each individual.
Yeah, it's personal
It
preference,
helps.
whatever works for you. Yeah, we just wanted to give you a glimpse of what we wanted and just to see what everyone else is. So you don't want to be, vague, want to be detailed, we could get an understanding of us. And obviously, all of us are going to be, a lot of you have seen me in a lot of your sessions. That's going to happen sporadically. I'm not there to do anything. I'm there to observe and just take notes sometimes. When we do a formal evaluation, we will tell you. So you will expect us once, and a lot of people are like, tell me, they freaked out when they see me walk in, like, oh my gosh. The reason I'm doing this now is because when you do get evaluated, you will be so accustomed to seeing me, it won't be a big deal. So.
And it's not only him, I will be starting to visit people, Isby's visiting, Tatiana, Susan Van Gasser, and Jean McGinnis also.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna be the silent observer in the corner, or are you gonna take part in the group?
I'm going to be the silent observer in the corner, observing silently.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian.
I know you say it's not an official observation, but I was, like, for instance, you came in on mine the other day, and I was hoping that maybe we could get together and get a little feedback, just, you know, just so I can know how I'm doing, not wait till my evaluation to find out I totally suck, right?
Actually, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. You want to, yeah, absolutely. I can do that in private with you if those who want it, sure.
Okay.
I have a question, because in the Success Center, when we had our meetings before school started, Dr. Gilbert, I think his name is, he gave us that thing we had to complete. I already completed the worksheets that we had to do the PowerPoints and take all the quizzes on Blackboard. And at the end, you have to have 2 of your peers observe you, and then you have to have 1 like faculty observation. Was that what you guys would be giving us? Because we have to scan copies and send them to him.
I will ask Tatiana if our evaluations, if we can give them to you. I'm sure we can, that's your information. But as far as the peers, you'll have to ask people around you to do it on their own time.
No, it's the other way around. You have to watch 2 of your peers.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can ask Ms. Rose to watch you when you go to your
just
office
have
hours.
her do it.
Yeah, just ask her if she can watch.
That's different from the Student Success Center then.
Yeah, that's.
And one other thing I remembered, icebreakers usually are really good the first week or 2, but if you're the 7th week and still doing icebreakers, and I do see it, so I mean, I just want to inform
But
that.
even if you use an icebreaker, what icebreaker are you using? What purpose is it serving? Don't just write icebreakers.
And it could be just get to know each
Breaking
other.
ice.
It could be a simple thing like that, because most icebreakers are to break the ice, so people get to know each other. But that's pretty much
I
it.
actually do it every time a new student comes to the session.
And you could back
Because
that
there's
up
the
with that.
regulars that always show up, so they
Uh-huh.
don't, but I always tell them, you're new to the group, so everybody does this every time they.
And that's the culture of your SI session, and that'll work, and that's your backing for it. Great, awesome.
Okay, next Friday, there won't be a session, but you still need to have your paperwork into myself or ISB by 3:30. And be expecting, my people, you need to come sign your timesheets with me on Wednesday. I need it completed today through the 10th, and Wednesday you will come sign it by 3:30. ISB will be contacting the rest of you to let you know what day she has all of hers done for you to sign, but you still need to have it filled in through the 10th by the end of today. If you have any questions on that, come see myself or ISB. All right?
Okay.